The community of practice, it helps our teachers greatly here at Westside. The modules are fabulous, and I think that they prepare teachers to come into the co-op meeting, but they're done independently. So the collaborative piece and the talking to my partner about, how he or she may have understood whatever came out of the module and how they're going to put that into practice. So I think that the collaborative piece, the dialogue between the staff, has been probably the most beneficial, short of teachers being in other teachers' classrooms observing things in practice. But to hear a teacher say, this is how I took that, or this is what I thought that meant, or this is how that translated over into my classroom with my students, that has been just a really phenomenal thing. And it's
the greatest community of practices that I've participated in are when the teachers bring artifacts and they can actually say, here is my student work, here's a video of my students using success criteria, but providing a focus to make that better. How can I get them to get beyond, how can I get my students to get beyond just giving praise to one another and really get to the meat of the standards? So those are the community of practices that I think really move our teachers forward.
I think another thing that allowed us to get more teacher involvement was setting aside time for the collaboration. So knowing that there would be set periods that they would meet together with peers to collaborate, to get feedback from one another and to move forward. We have a collaborative staff. They value the time from their peers. And so knowing that that was already a part of the process and they would be learning with them from one another really attracted them to it as well.
And the job embedded aspect of it, I think, too. The fact that there is time set out during the day for them to really stop and think deeply about this. That it's not something they're doing after school, after a long day of work. It's not something they're doing necessarily at home the whole time. It's set aside time for this work.
So my team and our formative assessment experience has been unique in that we have worked with the middle school, Oklahoma Road Middle School, and their 7th grade team and their administration. And we've both been going through the modules together, and it's been a very reflective year, I think, for both schools. The thinking behind that was that if we were going to do the work here at the high school, it was to our advantage to have the middle school doing it as well. The more students get in tune with the practices that come from a really rich formative assessment classroom, the more likely they are to own that and those practices when they get to the high school level.
The advice I'd give a new principal coming into formative assessment is to be a learner yourself. To be a learner, and then so that you are learning what is formative assessment. You can use the language of formative assessment. You can speak intelligently about formative assessment. You can offer hints and suggestions in your pre-conferences and when you observe teachers in your post-conference. So being a learner yourself and being knowledgeable about it. And then the second would be really allowing your teachers to take risks. So supporting them, saying, here's an idea. I know it may not go perfectly the first time. Try it out, and then I would be happy to come in and give you feedback around some changes you can make to make it more successful. But I value this enough that I think it will work for you. Take a risk, and supporting that teacher through the risks work that you're doing.
The added benefit of the community of practice is just getting that feedback from your peers and hearing all of the other ideas of what's happening in kindergarten and what's happening in 2nd grade. I mean, I have so many things written down just from our community of practice today that I'm ready to go back and implement in my own classroom. And it's sometimes things that you forget about. You're like, oh, well, I've done that before. That's definitely a great way to implement that. And it's awesome. It's always beneficial to hear your peer, to get feedback from your peers.
Practice is really helpful to me in generating new ideas, building upon what I've already started, and that's a lot of what we looked at today. I already have an artifact here, but I have all of these ways to improve it, to make it better, to make it more meaningful for my students. And it's really satisfying to see the progression of how it begins in kindergarten, what we're doing in 1st grade, what it's going to look like in 2nd grade, and making sure that's cohesive. So working collaboratively together like that has been really rewarding.
The most important part that a leader can bring to their staff when they're introducing them to coursework that's going to study formative assessment is to encourage them to take risk, support them, provide them the collaborative time, build a culture that teachers can challenge one another's thinking and can learn from one another and learn alongside them. As I said, I made assumptions that things that I knew about formative assessment, but I've been participating in the community of practice. I participate in the modules with my teachers, and I too have learned so much about formative assessment. So learning alongside them, I would tell a new principal to not make assumptions about what they think they know about formative assessment, because the power that we have seen and the results that we are seeing from our students through this coursework is time well spent.